Hello, good day, class. Assalamu alaikum. So, we are here to discuss our today's topic, that is Introduction to Research and Academic Writing. The topic today is topic selection for research. Now, we will discuss how do you select a topic for research, how do you find your topic, what are the things that you should look for, and how can you just find a good topic for your research. It could be for any research, for PhDs or MPhil or even just a research paper. Okay, so today we are going to discuss all these aspects, that how do you find a good topic for research, because this is one of the most important questions that have been asked several times, and most of my students need to know about this. So I thought I should just guide you on this, and since you are all going to write your term papers, so this is going to be very important for all of you as well. So let's get started. So how do you select topic for research? Well, if for instance, if I tell you about myself, I usually tell my students that whenever I supervise a PhD or an MPhil, I usually tell them that if you select a good topic, then 40% of your work is done. You just did 40% of your PhD or MPhil or even your research paper. Why? There is a very good logic behind it. I usually give them like weeks, if not months. For example, for a PhD, it could be months even, but I would usually give them weeks just to focus and find a good topic. Why? There are reasons for that. The most important reason for this is that when you select a topic and towards the end of your research, you started writing your introduction, literature, and everything. And while doing your research, you find out, oh, this wasn't a good topic, or that it has no future implications, it has no new contribution to the field of study. So suddenly while doing your research, you just find, oh, I didn't find anything new, it's everything old, nothing new that I can contribute to the field. So this research is a waste, it has no new aspects. Most of this work that I did is already done. So at the end, you have to change your topic, or sometimes you choose a topic where you cannot find the right methodology, or while if you find the right methodology, you find out that okay, this research is not possible in your context. Either you don't have that many resources, or you don't have that much time to do that research. For example, you take a longitudinal study, whereas the only time for an MPhil thesis is 1 semester. So you cannot do a 4 year study for in 1 semester. Even you cannot do that in a PhD. So there's a problem. You have to scrap it all down, and you just start from scratch again, from square one. So what did you do? You just threw away all your work or your few months of your efforts down the drain, because it has no value now. You see? So if you could choose a good topic, similarly, sometimes you cannot just find data on your topic. Either the respondents won't be willing to give you data, or you can't find a standard set of questions that you can ask someone, or there could be so many reasons. For example, in Pakistan, you cannot get reliable data on, let's suppose, harassment, maybe, or maybe domestic violence, or even women related, or there's so many other topics. Even in terms of just asking people about the general questions about themselves, or if you can just ask people, for example, about their salaries or living standards or anything, people can lie, and people tend to lie in certain areas. Okay, so your results might not be reliable. And in several cases I have seen where people just fill the questionnaire without reading it. So there have been several instances where I have to tell my students, okay, this data that you collected from 300 people, it's all a waste. All of them, they just filled it because you asked them to, they just filled it something. It means nothing, so you have to get it filled again. So there can be so many reasons. So rather than that we get trapped towards the end of the study and we have to do everything from scratch again, it is better to spend some time to find a good topic. Sometimes it just happens that okay, we took a good topic, but now we know that towards the end, when data collection, when we went to the step of data collection, we found out that no data is available. So in terms of secondary study, it could be it is possible. And again, sometimes you chose an industry where when you go to them and ask them to fill a questionnaire or to answer an interview, they would just simply decline. Nobody would answer your questions. There could be several reasons, but this happens. What would you then? So we need to and sometimes you do not find data on certain variables. You can find data on every other variable, but you now know that nobody's going to give you data on that particular variable, or that data is not available in your country or in your context of the study or whatever could be the environment. Okay, so this creates a lot of problem that you did all your work, the 60-70% work that you did on your thesis is all waste. You have to do it again. That is why we should work on our topic and find a good topic for our research. That is, it's very important to select a good topic in the beginning. You can spend some weeks, you can spend you can advise students to spend 30% or 20% of their time, all the thesis time, on just topic selection. Why? Because it is very important. I told you, if you select a good topic, you do not have to go back to square one. You did everything, introduction, literature, methodology, and then you have to come back. You have to scrap it all and then start again from introduction, even topic selection. So 40% of your work is done if you select a good topic. Now, how do you select a good topic? That is the most important question. Topic selection is a skill, you can say. So you have to do it creatively. So what most of my students do, they'll just go on the internet and they just Google something or just search something in a database, and they'll just start finding papers on that particular area or whatever they have are interested in. So I'll guide you from a few steps. Okay, there are a few different techniques that you can use to find a good topic. I'll guide you from the best ones to the ones that are just okay, and you can use, you can still use them. Every technique is usable, but there are shortcuts. Some of them are shortcuts, but again, the topic at the end of the day would be a good topic. However, you'll still need to think about it, that will you get data on this topic? Would you be able to collect data, or where would you collect data for this topic? And do you know how to use the softwares that would be required? And everything that you have to consider before time. And would you be able to compile a sample size that is needed? All these questions will still need to be answered, but as of now we are going to work on how do we find a topic and what are the questions that we would ask. Okay, later on we'll work on this, that what are the different things that we are going to do further on in the research. So let's start. The most effective and the best technique to find a good topic would be that you go to your particular database. Simmons was a one that I used to use in the United States, so this is a very useful place to search. However, in here you can just Google it, or you can just go to any database and then search over there. So what are the things that we do? First of all, you find an area. You have to define the area in which you want to study. So most of my students don't do that. They said we just need a topic to work on anything. It does not work like that. Firstly, you should have an area, plus because you would be interested in that area, you would be more inclined to work towards that area, and you might even have some knowledge about a particular area before, so that knowledge might come in handy. So just pick an area. It could be there are so many areas. For example, in finance, you can work on microfinance, you can work on corporate finance, you can work on corporate governance, you can work on green finance, you can work on, there's so many other areas, behavioral finance. You can work on what do you call it, you can work on let's suppose you just think I want to work on a new topic. Okay, a very unique area. You can work on quantum finance. Okay, so there are so many areas. You just go and search these areas, and then you search the particular papers in these areas. Okay, now when you search for particular papers in these areas, the best thing to do is you limit your search. You do an advanced search, and you limit your search to the past 2 years. Okay, and the most relevant content that you can get. Okay, so when you find that, I do usually advise my students there to restrict one more thing, that if they find a paper from our own countries, Pakistan, India, or any developing countries, they should not use it. Because at times I have seen papers that have been used, and then I found out that okay, it was from a Pakistan, and then we have complications. We do not get good uh, research gaps from these papers. We do not get good topics from these papers. That is the reason I would advise you to go for advanced countries, where the authors are from some advanced countries. It could be the United States, Britain, New Zealand, Australia, any good developed country. So you can collect data from there. You can restrict your search to those countries as well. However, you can just decide, okay, this paper is from the authors from this country, I can just skip it. Okay, that is one of the ways how you shortlist to the papers that you're going to read. Now, one of the things that my students do is they would just start reading the paper. Now this is not going to help you. At first, since you are finding the topic, what you need to do is you just need to read the relevant areas, and then when you have found out the papers, then you'll read the whole paper. Okay, so how do you do that? As soon as you find a few papers that are relevant and you find a good topic, and read it and you like it, and it is relevant to you, what you would like to do, open it and go and read its abstract. Okay, that should give you a idea about the whole paper. And then just go scroll down to the bottom of the paper. Just before the bibliography, you will find a area where it is usually written potential for further research. Okay, so either it would be a heading, or it would be just there sitting there inside or towards the end of the conclusion, somewhere in the conclusion, that potential for further research, or there would be just suggestion that further research should do this, further research should do that. For example, let me share one with you. Let's see, I just had opened a few papers for your guidance. For example, in this paper, if you see over here, so this is the paper one of my students was doing a research, and I asked him to do search, so he did search this. So this is the Journal of Banking and Finance. This is a paper which was published in 2019. So I had asked him to restrict his search to just last 2 years. Okay, so I'm recording this in 2020, so this is the last year, because the research might get old in 3 or 4 years, and then people might have worked already on those areas that were identified. So again, you can see that this is from definitely a good university. So we move on. We would read the abstract. This would give us the idea about the whole paper, and then we just scroll down. Okay, he highlighted some areas that were important, so you can see that. But when you scroll down towards the end of this and just before the references, you see you have all this conclusion over here. Okay, so all the comments that they are going to make, and then towards the end, usually you would find these areas where they would just provide suggestions for further research. So for example, if you read this, the student has highlighted this, so you can just read it. So in this paper, they have just guided you about all these things. In general, we lack systematic evidence of the role of composition of boards within specific types of investors. There is little systematic analysis of boards in business angle backed firms and in ventures founded by newer forms of finance, such as crowdfunding and accelerators. You see, so they've identified an area which has not been studied a lot, and there is need for evidence on that area. Okay, because at this time when you're finding a topic, so where is the topic? Well, you'll have to build it from these gaps. So what are you trying to find? You're trying to find a gap. Okay, where is this gap? This is a gap in literature. This is a gap in the field of research. So how do I tell? Your purpose is to bridge this gap. Okay, so whatever you're doing, whenever you're doing a research, the purpose of your research is to find a gap, a good one, and then bridge it. And some of my students, they would usually do what, they would just go find a gap, and the gap would be that this study has not been done in Pakistan. Now this is not going to work. A country differences do not justify a PhD or MPhil thesis. I'm sorry, but this is true. You can write a paper about it, and there might be differences. You might be very knowledgeable about it, but they cannot justify an MPhil or a PhD. It can be a minor gap. So what I do tell my students is to find at least 3 gaps for MPhil and a few more for PhD. The third gap could be the weakest one, like country differences or something. But they should have 2 strong gaps that their study is going to bridge. Because at the end of the day, what do we get from your research? Your contribution to the field of knowledge. So what did you contribute? Okay, so we need some new knowledge creation. Okay, so for that purpose, what we are trying to search over here is, where is the gap in the literature? What is missing? What has not been studied before? Okay, so for example, over here you can see that this content has not been studied before. Moreover, given the emergence of co-financing by different types of fund providers, analysis is needed on the construction, composition, and impact of board in these portfolio firms. Okay, so you need this knowledge. Again, this is missing. Similarly, research also needs to go beyond demographic measures such as age, gender, to include more fine-grained measures covering the human and social capital of board members associated with the finance providers. Okay, this is about corporate governance. So do not want to explain all this, what corporate governance is and how agency and everything works. So what I'm going to just tell you briefly is that he has identified, okay, he or she, the paper authors have identified that this is the area where further research is needed. So people are doing a certain research based on age and gender and all those factors in the field of corporate governance, and they see that does age or the fact the gender or the relation to the business owners or anything like that, or independence and all those things have any impact on the decisions of the board. Okay, however, they have suggested that okay, all these have been studied, but there are new measures that need to be addressed, that is the human and social capital of the board members, and how does it affect the financial provider. Okay, so you need to study this. Now this is a new research area, this is a gap that needs to be bridged. So we have found a gap. Now what we'll do is we'll find topics related to this area. See, so we thought that okay, we can either work on this or we can work on this. So let's suppose we picked up this topic. Okay, now we want to search on this topic alone. Okay, so we do not go into anything else, we just simply go and find this papers related to these areas: human and social capital and board corporate governance. Okay, so we're going to go and search for these, and again in the past few years we'll go to the research that has been done in the past few years, we'll prefer past few years, and then okay, we found this gap, we will cite this paper as the source of the gap again, and we'll find further research. Now what do we do is we read the whole papers. We start reading by the introduction by sorry by the we start reading the abstract, the introduction, and most importantly the conclusion, and sometimes the methodology as well. And if we find it relevant, we'll just keep it for further reading, and if we do not find it relevant, we'll just skip this paper and go to the next paper. Towards the end, what we will have is we'll have all the papers that contain content relevant to our study. Now we are going to read all these papers throughout and then start writing the introduction and everything accordingly, and we'll just answer a few questions. Okay, what are these questions going to be? The first one: so do we fill an adequate gap? If yes, we move on to the second question. If no, we have to find another topic. The second question is going to be, okay, is relevant content available? Has this been studied? Is the variables that we are going to think, okay, are related? Okay, and is the theory going to back all these variables that are related? Okay, if we have a theory that backs all these variables, okay, that this has a relationship with this and this variable has a relationship with that, and if we have backing theories, fine. If we don't, again we have to go back to the drawing board. Similarly, what we have to answer next is what sort of a methodology should be used, and can that methodology be used in your area, in your country, or in your area of study, or in your particular setting? Okay, so if that is possible, fine, fantastic. And then lastly, what we are going to see is, will you be able to collect data on that particular area? Will people be willing to provide the data, or will you be able to collect this data, or is this data secondarily available in annual reports or any other database wherever it is possible? And finally, we can ask that, okay, if this is workable and this has not been studied before, we're going to ask all these questions. And based on that, we are going to decide that whether this topic is a good topic or not. And while writing the topic, the students usually ask me a question that, do we include all the variables or most of the variables or in the important variables of the topic in the title? Because one of my students, they just told us during a synopsis defense that okay, I didn't include most of the variables in my study, because they just say that it just you can say that it just um, incites the curiosity of these readers, that okay, would be in this paper, that it has a very short title, it gives us no information, so people would actually write to download it and open it and read it. And I just told him, okay, fine, maybe it might increase their curiosity, but what if they just search for it and they do not find your paper at all? Because since your title does not have the keywords that need to be there for people to okay, to see that okay, this is relevant to my search, people might just skip it. Okay, so you have to consider this, that people should be able to read that what are the variables and the things that you are studying, so that they can decide that do they have to read it or do they do not want to read it. So it's better to keep most of those words and describe your title as much detail as possible. But then again, some of the students would just write a title that is like a page long. Sorry, you cannot do that. Your title could be a few lines, 2 or 3 lines. Okay, that should be enough. It was usually 15 words is good enough. 15, 20, maybe 30. Okay, max 30 would be even quite big. 30 words. You just have to give the main idea of your study in your title. Don't include everything and don't just include nothing. Okay, be moderate. Why do we always have to go towards the extreme, either a very big topic or a very small one? Just be moderate, give the relevant information that is needed, necessary information. That's it, end of story. So it's the quality, not the quantity, that counts. Again, towards the thesis as well, this is what's going to count. Okay, moving on, there is another way to find a topic. Okay, so that way is going to be that you search for a paper that gives you new directions in that particular area. For example, I'll share this paper with you. For example, if you see this paper, I believe you can see this paper. Let me see if there's an issue with this. Okay, this isn't the paper I was working. Okay, this is the paper I was talking about. If you see this paper, okay, so this paper is about microfinance governance, a systematic review and future research direction. So you can find several papers like these. Either they would be literature reviews or systematic reviews, and some of them would be like this, that they would give you future research directions as well. So in such papers, you do not have to make all that effort that we just did. Someone has made that effort for you. If they have done a literature review, if they have done a future research direction for you, you just go to these papers, you just read these papers. And for example, my student did this. He just highlighted most of the areas that were identified by the authors. So this was again a UK based paper, so this is a very good paper. So he just highlighted the most important gaps that they identified. So for example, the one that we are going to discuss over here is one performance dimension that has not yet been linked empirically to the governance and performance research in MFI, microfinance institutions, environmental performance, also known as the third bottom line. So you got a topic. They already found out that this was not studied. They have given you the reference to the source from where they got this information, and they would have so much information on this. Now this is that you have your work cut out for you. You do not have to find work, that what you are going to do. It's right there. So the basically you do not have to cut the cake to get your slice. You just have a slice already over there. The cake has already been cut, the slice is right there. You just pick one slice that you need. You see, so this is a shortcut to do this sort of a research and to find a good topic. Then again, you do all the steps that you do after you find an area and the topic, and then you can just redefine your topic or title. You go in depth, you read this paper that has been given over here, the references would be provided, and you'll just go and read that paper. You'll find the variables, the subvariables, the subcategories. You'll find further research on these areas, and then again read the whole papers and find out the particular papers that are relevant, then read them all, and then find and fine tune your topic, and then write your introduction, literature, and everything. We'll go towards the writing part later on. Okay, so now you know this. Then there is one more part that I would like to tell you about, that there is one more technique. How do you find a research topic? This is again a shortcut. So you just can go to any search engine and just find uh, what do we call them? You just find call for papers. Okay, so in terms of these call for papers, the editors mostly would have having a lot of experience in their fields, would have already identified the areas that need to be studied in a particular area, because literature is not present in those areas. So they want you to write papers on those areas. And again, what we want to do, they have already found out the gap that you need to bridge. What you need to do is just fill that gap. Again, a shortcut, but effective. You can use this technique. Okay, it's not illegal or unethical or anything, but it's just your work has been cut out for you specifically. You just pick a topic. For example, I searched for this call for papers. This call for papers is in the Journal of Management Decision, Corporate Social Responsibility and COVID-19 Global Crisis, Managerial and Financial Perspectives in Developed and Emerging Countries. See, so you see the editors and the introduction about why they do all this study and why they want this knowledge. And finally, special issue, the aims of the special issue, and then you find the themes of the study. Now you can write on any one theme of the study. Okay, so they will just be so all these themes are research gaps. There is need for literature on all these themes. You can pick one or two and just make your own. Usually you can just pick one and just make your own. For a PhD you might even go for one more than one. You can go for three if you're writing essays in finance or something. So you see, knowledge is needed on all these. Since this okay, you can say, "Sir, okay, these have been worked." Okay, you see, but CSR has hardly been linked with any of these. You see, for example, knowledge, I've seen a lot of content on knowledge management, and then you can see can work on this. For example, CSR, if you see all these corporate social performance, managerial practices, innovation management, all this has been worked out. Intellectual capital, okay, you would have a lot of content already on this. However, the link to CSR and intellectual capital, that has not been developed so far. So you need to work on that. You need to work on intellectual capital and CSR, because CSR is a new field. So, and again, in the context of COVID-19 global crisis. So you see, and the BRICS, the next 11, the civets, the mints. So you need to study these areas in this context. And all these gaps have been identified for you by the general editor, who is a very knowledgeable person. So this is how you identify a good topic. And then you'll just search on these topics and you'll find a paper that is relevant and find further papers that are relevant and just design your study. Okay. That's how it works. Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed this session and you just learned something about how do you find a final topic, a good topic for your research, and how do you do a good research. Okay, to do good research you need to have a good topic. And always remember, try to find unique areas that have not been worked before. It would take some effort, it would require some effort for you to work, but then again, this would be a good contribution from your side towards that field or towards the area, and that is what we need. See, so it would be your contribution to this field of study, and that is what research is. Don't try to just replicate the works of others. That is useless, that is plagiarism, that is dishonesty, academic dishonesty, to be very honest. So good luck everyone, and I'll see you soon with the, and I'll just meet you again, okay, soon with this with a new topic that we need to discuss. That would be, how do you write the introduction after you've selected your topic. Again, remember this: you do not write the abstract after you have selected your topic. You write the introduction. Your abstract is something that is written towards the end. Okay, so next topic would be how to write the introduction and what is the content that needs to be included in the introduction. So good luck, students.